with a tour of Adobe Photoshop, so make sure your Photoshop is open. And also you're going to go to that drive and find that folder for, in your Photoshop tutorials, find the folder for the Photoshop tour and pop art. There's also written instructions and some examples in that folder. You're going to need a photo of yourself. So the instructions are here. Or you can use a pic of your animal. You're going to want maybe a headshot, one where you're not too far back in the photo and, somewhat decent quality. There's also in the basics, there's going to be, if you want to look at the tools panel there is a breakdown of some of the tools we're going to go through. And let's see here, speed keys, this is what we're going to need. So a lot of these we've used before in Adobe Illustrator. We're going to use again. There are some new ones we're going to use a lot. So we're going to use Command J quite a bit for duplicating a layer, and then Command D to deselect. So in Adobe Photoshop, I'm going to open my image here. My headshot, which is, I purposely picked a headshot that has bad color quality so you can see me work on that. So I'm going to have to resize this first thing in the directions, and we're going to go through our tools. This is a move tool, this is a selection tool. Of course, if you're going to go to File, New, and open a new document, you can do custom. You can type in the coordinates just like you would in Illustrator, but we have pixels or inches here. So with my image, I'm going to go ahead and go to the rectangle selection tool. There are easier ways to do this. I'm showing you more of an old school way, and then as we get through our videos and our tutorial series, this is just right now for a tour of the tools. We will use, a little bit different ways of doing the same process, but a little bit different. So on this one, I'm just going to go ahead and, well, it's set here. So I'm going to set the dimensions. It says a height of 3.5 inches. So once I'm on this selection tool, I can go over here to pixels, and I'm going to put 3.5 inches in height. And you see it's by 64 pixels. I'm going to go ahead and put 3.5 for my coordinate over here. And this should give me, it has 3.5 pixels. Make sure it says inches. 3.5 in. There we go. So, and I want to do it at, I could just do normal ratio as well if I just want to then select whatever area I have, and then I can type in a fixed ratio or fixed size. I'm going to do a fixed size of height by 3.5 by width by 3.5. And you can see my image is quite large, so it's not going to get that area. So what we're going to go up here is to image. There's mode. We're going to use adjustments a lot, and we're going to go down to image size. Let's see what size this image is. So it is a width of 10 inches by height of 13 inches. Is a resolution of 72. So I'm going to type in, what did I say, a height of 3.5. If I have this button right here for resample, it will resample it 3.5, and I'm going to put a resolution of 150. Now we're getting more down to the size that we need. Okay, there we go. This is not enormous anymore. So this is going to be a small sort of image that we've got here. Now I can use my rectangle tool, and of course I can type in coordinates there, but I can also go back to a normal ratio where I just pick the size. And there are other ways to crop in. I get into videos in that later, but just select the area that you want to crop in on. And I can go to Image, Crop. Of course, the other way is in our tools palette here, I can use the crop tool as well, and when I'm happy with where it is at. But first I have to make sure it's resized to a smaller, wallet size photo. And then I can hit return. Either way works. So once I've done that, we're going to get rid of some of these extras here that we don't need right now. I'm going to use my adjustments in a little bit. And I'm going to go into my layers. I'm going to duplicate that layer. So one way to duplicate that layer is to go over to the little hamburger menu on the side and go to duplicate layer. But I can also type in Command J. Command J copies that. So I'm going to call this my working layer or headshot. This is just a bottom layer here, and I can turn that eyeball on and off, and this eyeball on and off. It's the same thing on top of the back layer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that bottom layer off, and I'll turn it back on later. You can see what we're doing. The main objective now is we're just going to learn how to select some areas and get rid of them for our pop art tutorial. So let's go through the tools. So there's a rectangular marquee tool. That's a selection tool. I'm just going to select this area here and hit delete. Whoops. I got to make sure I've got that selected. Now I'm going to hit delete. You can see if I turn on the image underneath it, it fills in that space. I'm going to turn that image eyeball off. This second one over here is an elliptical. Of course, I could select that shape, hit delete. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. If I need to deselect the area, I'm going to use Command J and Command D quite frequently. The single row. So this is going to get rid of just one little pixel row at the top. If I hit delete, I hit Command D to deselect it. You can see it gets rid of it. When it is selected, it is called marching ants, that area. And I can do it down the side as well with a single, and I hit Command D to deselect. There's also the lasso tool. So the lasso tool is pretty free flowing. I just have to kind of come back when I'm done to the beginning of it and close that area off, and then Command, it's always highlighted. That means it's still usable until I hit Command D and deselect it. There's a polygon lasso tool. This particular tool works more rigidly. It's almost like the pen tool, but it doesn't have, you can't pull any curves off of it. We're just going to select an area with these straight lines. I'm going to hit delete, Command D. The next one down is the magnetic lasso tool. This one's working off color, and it is trying, this image is hard. I purposely picked a hard image with my hair is almost as yellow as the wall behind me. And so it's trying to differentiate the color. It just depends on the image how well it works. Some of these work better on different images. So there is that the magnetic, the polygon, and the lasso tool. Now we get into the quick selection tool. This one also works off colored areas. It's going to try to select. So if I select next to my hair, it's going to grab, it really is having trouble differentiating those colors. But it works pretty well on, when the color is quite different. It depends on how much contrast you have. So I'm just going to select this area over here and try to get as much as I can. And once again, I'm just showing you all the different ways you can select areas. There's the magic wand tool. This works off color as well, but it really has a hard time in certain areas. So if I want to add more, I hold down Shift and you get a plus sign next to it. Option, get a minus sign. So if I want to keep holding down Shift and select more and more and more to go with it, I can. And then, oops, I got too much. I'm going to hold down Option for that minus part, and I can take off some areas. I'm going to hit delete right here. So the other tool you can use is down here on the right. There's an eraser tool. But it only works in the areas that are selected. So I'm going to have to deselect, Command D, so I can just use it freely. Or if you wanted to use it within a selected area only, you can also feel free to do that. So practice using all these tools for selecting and cleaning up your image. And then if you want to change that brush tool, so if you want to get in certain areas and really use that brush tool, you may have to get a different brush. So the size of the brush is right here, the hardness of it. So if yours is really soft, it gets a super soft edge. I hit Command Z there to undo. You don't get as many undos as you normally would. So if I really did a lot, Command Z may not go back as far. You can always go into your window, history. History is so great. I wish there was this in real life. It lets you go back in time all your steps. So if I want to go back really far, I can, and then I can come forward. Once you save it though, you lose these steps. So, you know, as long as you're still working, I can keep those steps. So, using, well, let me show you really quickly. I want to get a little bit, you know, I don't want it too soft around the edges. And then for my brush size, this is also a command key. I can hit those bracket keys when I'm on my brush tool. Bracket key to the right makes it really big. Bracket key to the left makes it much smaller. And, you know, I can clean up this area as needed. So using all of those tools, try to get, you know, the background out of your image as, you know, nice and neat as possible. To clean it up, make yourself look favorable if you want to delete some areas more than you need to. And then, you know, if you need to zoom in really close on some areas and use certain tools just to pick up colors in there and clean it up, just make it as nice as you can. So clean the background up out of your image and we'll move on to the next step. All of the background deleted there, you can see I have my, you know, my two different layers. Once I've deleted it all, let's go ahead and save this as headshot cropped and leave it as a PSD file because we're still working in it. So save that as a PSD file for now. Okay, so the PSD file will keep all these layers here. It won't flatten your image out. Now that I've done this and I've got it all selected out, you know, if you want to crop it down a little bit more, you can still go back to that if you need to. Okay, I'm going to hit return. So now I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and then we're just going to go through brightness, contrast levels, curves real quick. So I'm just going to give it a little brightness and contrast. And because we're doing this pop art image, we want to make it a little bit more extreme than normal. So if you don't have a lot of contrast, we'll see what it looks like. I got to get off of this crop tool when we go to make the final, which is Image, Adjustments. We're going to use Threshold. So if you're not getting a lot of detail here in the threshold, you may need to add more contrast, and I'll show you how to burn some areas as well. So if I'm not getting a lot of contrast there in my image that I like, I can once again go back to Image, Adjustment. You know, maybe I'll try my levels here, and I can, this is the midtones, you know, this is your darks, this is your lights, so I can make it a little bit more extreme if I like. This little eyedropper on the left is the light area. The eyedropper on the right is anything that is darker. It'll make it more extreme. And then I can also use my, there's a lighten tool and a burn tool. There's a sharpen and the blur tool. It's over here. There's the dodge tool, which lightens, and the burn tool, which darkens. So I'm going to just darken up my eye area and my eyebrow area and give myself some little eyelashes so this comes out nice. So you can do this, you know, however you want. You can hit Command Z. You can go back in your history if you need to, but to darken some areas so they come out better. We want to actually be more dramatic because we're going to do that pop art black and white look with threshold. There, okay, I can see my eyes just a little bit better when I do this. So, you know, darken and lighten it as needed. I'm going to hit OK when I'm happy with it. Now let me show you what we're going to do here. We're going to go to Select Color Range. I want to select everything that is white. Hit OK. So all I did is click that eyedropper on a white area and it will select all of that area. And then I'm going to hit Delete. And all I'm left with is the color black. And that's all that's in there. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to call it Color. In this area, this layer, I'm going to lay behind my headshot. And I can actually go into my brush tool right here. And I'm going to pick some very bright colors. You can go into your color palette, your swatches palette, whatever you like. And I'm going to use that brush. Remember the bracket keys on either side. Change the size of that brush. You know, I like a little bit harder brush. The softer brush will definitely give a different look to it there. If at any time you need to reset your workspace, reset if you're missing some of these palettes. I can choose multiple brushes. Let me show you how I can get a color again if I decide. So let's say I want to, you know, feel free to zoom in all you need to. I'm going to put some eyes, you know, paint it however you like. Let's say I need a smaller brush. Let's say that I want to pick up that blue color again and start again with the blue color. I'll just simply go over to the eyedropper, select that blue color, and then it is back where it was before. You can, of course, make swatches just like you do in Illustrator by pulling that color over to the swatch palette as well, if you want to do that. All right, so go ahead and color all of this, including the background. So if I wanted to do a full background color behind this, I could make a layer. I'm going to call this color full, and put this one behind the one that I'm working on now. And then let's see where the, just use that full, sorry. Just take a tour, play with any of these that you want to play with, the gradients. Of course, you're not using text yet. They're the eyedropper tool. Just take a tour and play with any of these that you would like to practice on. This is a practice lesson just to play around with all the different tools and take a look at whatever, you know, the hand tool, of course, moves everything around. This is going to draw shapes. And then let's say I'm going to fill that background color, that full background. I've got to select the full background color, and I'm going to make it a different color so you can see what happens. I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, and I'm going to choose, you can do the foreground, the background color, you can just do color. Of course, ours is on the foreground color. If you notice here, the foreground color is pink and the background color is white, and it fills that entire block there, and this one's on top of it. So color your face in however you like, make it as wild as you like. I have a finished version. All of that there I will put for you to see. So this is a finished version I've done before in the past, and you know, it's very similar to the Andy Warhol type of pop art silkscreen examples that I've got in there. So have fun with it. There's no right or wrong, just learning how to use those tools, how to delete areas. Now let's go ahead and save this as a JPEG, and it will flatten out all these layers as a separate file. First, I'm going to save it with the PSD layers. I want to keep those layers. And make a nice, neat folder for yourself. So make a tutorial folder for yourself for all those files so you don't lose them. So first, I'm going to save this as a PSD. And then I'm going to go back and save one that's much smaller, that's easy to turn in, but this is going to flatten the layers. I'm going to save it as a JPEG, so I can't go back and edit those layers separately. But it's small, it's easy to turn in, it's not going to be nearly as big. Let me open that up. So I saved that to the same folder. I saved it to my tutorial folder. I'm going to open that JPEG. And let's see, I'll show you how to check the size on that. So image size, and it will tell you it's not even a meg, it's 679K, and it gives you the width, the size, the resolution, and that is all for our pop